Today I'm going to demonstrate how to write in calligraphy. I have what are called undersheets, or I will refer to them as the paper with lines, the calligraphy lines on them. What we have to remember is that where the X's are is where we are going to start. That is the center line. If you notice, the center line is slightly bigger than the A-center line, which is the line above the center line. That's for your letters that are taller, that your A-centers, your B, D, H, those types of letters, so letters that are commonly taller than their letters next to them. And then underneath we have what is called the D-center line. That's the line for letters like Y, G, J, those letters that always need to go farther down than the rest of them. Okay, so we have A-centers and we have D-centers. We also use the A-center line when we make our majuscules, or our capital letters. But most of our minuscules, our lowercase letters, are just going to fill in this X-line space. I have, you can't see it on the screen here, but I have my font with me. These are my minuscules, my lowercase letters. There's also showing me a couple different variations, how two T's connect with an I. I have a different G compared to the more difficult fancy G. I have a Q that looks very much like the majuscule Q, and I also have a Q that looks very similar to what you would write normally. Same thing with the K, more of a cursive-y looking K, more of a normal looking K. This is a semi-formal font, so therefore it looks more like an everyday handwriting. Those are my majuscules, or my minuscules, excuse me. On the back of my paper I have my majuscules, my capital letters. These don't have as many variations as to how to make them, okay? But I always have this here for me to be able to see. Most of the time, it's just over off to the side in case I need it. Now I have my old calligraphy markers. What I have noticed is that my calligraphy markers are getting a little on the smashed side. This one is actually in fairly decent shape, but I can see that there is some fraying at the top. It's curved, it's been mashed down, it's not quite as nice. And then I also have one of my new calligraphy markers that has not been used, and it has a nice chisel angle that I need to be able to write my calligraphy letters nice and pretty. I'm going to start off with my black one just so I can show you the difference. So if I was going to write, let's say, my ABCs, and I'm going to write them as minuscules, I would first make the top line for my A, and then I would curve around, and I would come down for my A. And I would practice this a lot. I want more of a circular looking A, not quite an ovally A, more circular. Okay, I want a round A. So I got my A. My B is an A-center. So therefore I'm going to come up here, and I'm not going to touch the top of my A-center line, but I'm just going to come down a little bit. Bring down my first downward stroke. Give it a little bit of a curve at the bottom. It looks very much like a lowercase or a minuscule L. Now I'm going to go back up to the top of my X line, and I'm going to curve it around. That wasn't a very good B, but let's try again. I'm going to go down, a little bit of a curve, and around. The idea is that with more practice, my letters will be nice and round and fill that line nice and pretty. A C. A C is very similar to the A. I'm going to start off with my top of my C, and then I'm going to curve it around, and I'm done. My C is an important letter. My C is important is I can make many letters from my C. Okay, so my C. Starting on the line and curving around. Okay, if I wanted to make a D, which is also an ascender, I would make a C, then I would bring down my line, and I have made a D. C, D. I could also turn that C into an A. It's more of an ovally A versus my circular A that I want. Okay. Now let's look at one that is a descender. We've done two that are ascenders. Remember the ascenders, like this D here, I'll make another D, go above the center line. That's why they are ascenders. Let's look at a descender. I've run out of room, so I'm going to move my paper back. Again, I'm finding my line with my X, and let's do a descender. How about we make the letter Y? So I'm going to give it a little serif, and I'm going to bring it down. The serif is that little extra flick at the top. It's not very exaggerated. Okay, and there is my descenders. I'm going down. Let's make a G. I made a G by using the letter C. How about a J? Okay, so that's with one of my old mashed markers. What if I use my nice new purple marker that isn't quite as mashed? What if I make a J right next to this other J? Do you see how nice and clean my line is? I'm getting some thick and thin lines like I want. A, B, C, D. Okay, the markers are really easy to mash down, which is why my personal preference is the pens, but the pens are more expensive, they're more complicated to use, more so because of the materials that they require. So we stick with markers for right now, just because they're a good tool to learn on, and in fact, that is the first tool that I learned to use, was the calligraphy marker. If you've been in class with me, we've written this fun sentence: the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So let's start here. Majestual, T. When I use my markers, I like to kind of rotate them every now and then, so that way I'm not smashing anything down. Over. Now watch how I make my O. I start here with the back part of the C, the larger part of the C, and then I finish by mirroring it over. the. Here's a minuscule T. Crossbar first, back to where I started, up a little bit, down and around. We notice that there's no S in this sentence. So we've made dog, plural. So that way we could practice our S as well. So if I were to start writing that sentence again with my older mashed marker, I'll just write the last word here. I'll write dogs again, doing it the same exact way. It still looks nice because I'm taking my time and I'm writing an everyday semi-formal font, but it doesn't have the same qualities. It does not have the same thicknesses and thinnesses that I would like to see with calligraphy. But it's still very neat. I'm still putting my serifs. I'm still making my letters the same exact way, but the nicer, newer, crisp marker has a different calligraphy quality to it. Okay, so it's a very basic introduction to calligraphy. The markers, where we write, how we write. Remember, you're going to touch the top and the bottom of the X line. The X line is where you always start. You're always going to have 3 lines, no matter what. You're going to have the X line, you're going to have the ascender line, and the descender line. You cannot recycle the ascender line or the descender line and make it your ascender line, because your X line is bigger than your ascender or your descender line. Therefore, you have to start on the X line. You cannot save space and recycle your descender and make it your ascender if you had no descenders. Okay, just like right here, I had no descenders, but I did not recycle my descender line and make it an ascender line.